Okay, in these problems, we're going to use multiplication to make it look like the addition problems we just did. So how we're going to do that is I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by a number. And the number is real simple. I'm going to take the first number on the bottom and move it up to the top. And then I'm going to put the first number that's on the top and move it to the bottom. And I'm going to make one of them negative. So I'm going to make the first one negative just because. As long as one of them is negative. Then you're going to multiply through. So negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10x. Negative 2 times 6 is a negative 12y. And negative 2 times 8 is a positive 16. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. So I'm going to multiply the 5 times the 2, which is 10x, the 5 times the 3, which is 15y, and 5 times the negative 5, which is a negative 25. What I've done is I've created opposites. Now I can add. So now we're back to where we were before. I'm now going to add. So this is 3y equals negative 9. And then so y equals a negative 3. Once you have one letter, you can substitute back in. So I will substitute always. I just substitute to the first one. So there's my substitution, and I solve. That's a negative 18, which I would add to the other side. So 5x equals 10. So x equals 2. So I have my two answers, which I will put in coordinate form, 2, negative 3. Same thing with this problem. I'm going to multiply, and I'm going to pick the first number, put it on top, 3, put the second number on top, and put it as 6. I'll make one of them negative. I'll make the top negative. So now I multiply negative 3 times 6 is a negative 18x. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6y. Negative 3 times 10 is negative 30. And then I'll do the bottom. That's 18 and negative 42. And then 6 times negative 19 is negative 114. And then I add. Once again, these first two always will be the opposite, and we're adding. So then when I add, I get 2. So what I get here, let me just see here, is a 36. I get a negative 36y equals a negative 144. And when I divide, I get y equals 4. And then I just substitute back in. So I got 6x minus 2 times 4 equals 10, which is minus 8. Add that, so I get 6x equals 18. And so x equals 3. So I have my answer 3 and 4. Other examples of the multiplication property is I'm going to just multiply by what's in front of the x, which is a 1. Multiply what's in front of the x, which is a 2. I make one of them negative. I always make the top. So that gives me a negative 2x minus 7y equals minus negative 1. 2x on the bottom plus 10y equals 4, and now I add. And these two will always go to 0. And so when I add, I get 3y equals 3, so y equals 1. Then I substitute back in. So I have my 2x plus 7 equals 1. And so 2x equals a negative 6, x equals negative 3. And so I have my two answers, just like every problem we've had. Multiplication problem. Here, same exact thing. I'm going to multiply, but I'm going to move my negative 3 up, and I'm going to move my 1 down because that's what's in front of the x. Now here's where I already have a negative, so I'll just make the other one negative, and then I can multiply. So I get a negative 3x on top, negative 3y, negative 6, and negative 1 times a negative 3 makes that a positive 3x, makes that a negative 4, and when I multiply, I get a negative 15. The reason why I did this right here is because I needed opposites. If I didn't change at least one of them, since one's already negative, I wouldn't get this. So now I can add, and when I add, I get negative 7y equals negative 21, so y equals 3. And then I can substitute back up. X plus 3 equals 2, so x equals a negative 1. And so I have my two answers, negative 1 and 3. In this particular problem, we're going to create two equations like we've done before. And so we have a field goal is worth 3 points, and an extra point on a touchdown is worth 1 point. And so we have a situation where we have 21 total field goals and extra, 21 total field goals and extra points. 21 total field goals, extra points for not 49 points. So if we take our field goals, and I'll make that F, and my extra points, I'll make that E. I add them together, I have 21. Now the next equation is the value of F. Well, field goals are 3 points. So every field goal is worth 3. And every extra point is worth 1. So I have 1 for every extra point. And the total points I will get is 49. So basically one equation is just taking the two items, but then we need the value. And now I have the value, I have my two equations, I can now do my multiplication property. So I'm going to do the multiplication property, and I'm going to put my 3 up here and my 1 down here, and I'm going to change the top one when I can. So I change it, so I get negative 3f minus 3e equals a negative 63, and then I get 3f plus 1e equals 49, and so I now add, always add, and I get negative 2e equals, when I do that addition, I get 14, and so, or negative 14 I mean, and when I divide, I get e equals 7. So we want to know the number of field goals and extra points. Well, if there's 7 extra points, if I substitute it back into my field goals, so after 7 extra points, 21 total, subtract the 7, I have F equals 14 field goals. So I have 14 field goals and 7 extra points.